spent a good amount of time now promoting you to reminisce about the various qualities of leaders you've experienced in your professional and personal lives. Let's take a moment to reflect on how those whose actions are based with power. Did their leadership style work? Did people follow them? Chances are your immediate answer was a resounding yes. But think more. Power does indeed work, but typically its results are short-term. Immediate results are not hard to get when you're utilizing a do this or else attitude. People will follow because of fear. Fear of job loss, fear of their marriage ending, or even a fear of getting grounded. However, even with the feeling of fear, power-based leaders' results typically don't last. Eventually, their followers develop a personal courage and come to realize a powerful method of motivation doesn't work. Enter rebellion. Why is rebellion usually anticipated? Because power-based leaders don't motivate their followers in a positive nature. They follow their own personal agendas, which may have little consideration for the well-being of their followers. Think of the boss from Office Space, Bill Lumbergh. He is a familiar example of a power-based leader. His employees would hide from him, take breaks to get away from him, and ultimately plan memorable rebellions against him and the parent company. The quote from Peter Gibbons, one of the main characters in the film, sums up the eventual attitude of employees led by a power-based leader. It's not that I'm lazy, it's that I don't care. What if that attitude crept into a National Weather Service office? Think about how a power-based leader may impact the mission of the agency. When you're dealing with a power-oriented leader, there will be part of you that wants to help change their leadership style to something more positive. There are things to keep in mind when dealing with confronting someone's leadership style or methods. First, and most importantly, is that you alone cannot change the person. For a person to want to change in any manner, they have to want to change. The only thing you truly have influence over is yourself, but that doesn't mean that bringing an inappropriate action to someone's attention is meaningless. Perhaps they didn't realize the impact they were having on people. They can then take this information, reflect internally, and hopefully reach a decision to make some adjustments. The tact you use when you approach a power-oriented leader is also important. If you approach them with a guns-blazing attitude, chances are you will only raise the defensive side in the listener, and they will not hear or digest your true message. Using a method which is calm and factual, which will go much further in making an impression. The use of empathy can be an important player in communicating with any leader. Try to look at the situation from their point of view. It may provide some different methodologies for approaching them. If empathy is not your strong suit, or you're just too convinced that the topic is too charged and will almost certainly result in confrontation, consider using a mediator. Having a neutral party there may be beneficial to both parties. Along with the style of how you confront a person, also keep in mind that the environment and timing can be crucial. Even though the inappropriate situation may have just occurred, it is unlikely that confronting the supervisory level meteorologist in the middle of a severe weather outbreak will have the best results. Consider the environment and discuss any issues at an appropriate time and in an appropriate location. For the purpose of this presentation, we are going to look at one specific method for discussing concerns with people. As illustrated in the book Courage, the Backbone of Leadership, a method labeled Action E-Reaction can be a very useful tool in communicating both complaints and compliments. What is Action E-Reaction? There are two parts to an Action E-Reaction statement. The first is starting with the behavior or action you want to address. A simple method for doing this is to start off a sentence with "when you," and then complete the action you need to address. The second, or reaction side of the equation, allows you to use an adjective to describe how the action impacts you. The end result of the combined sentiment will be, when you do the specific action, I feel or felt some adjective. There are some tricks as to not elicit a defensive reaction like we discussed earlier. Avoid utilizing a, when you did this, you made me feel this way. No one can make you feel any specific way, and your reaction is personal and should be explained that way. Additionally, this method places everything on the receiver and will cause them to become defensive instead of using it as a reflective exercise. Let's go through a quick example of what this conversation may entail. Let's first go through an example where you may be addressing a negative action. We'll say the interaction is between Bob, a general forecaster, and Amy, a lead forecaster. Bob has been showing up 10 to 15 minutes late for his shifts for the past few months, and Amy has decided it's time to address the issue. Note again the form of Amy's comment, when you, I feel. This should keep Bob from feeling attacked during the conversation. What will Bob's reaction be? Well, that can be hard to say. It is, of course, up to him how he officially reacts to the confrontation. He may just blow off the conversation or even grow a little agitated with Amy. However, it will still make him think about his actions, and the next time he is late while Amy is working, he's aware of how his actions will impact her. And if it does happen again, then Amy may have to have the same conversation with Bob at a later date. Eventually, Bob will have to internalize her comments and reflect how his actions impact not only Amy, but everyone else in the office as well. Action E-reaction can aid in situations where you need to address a difficult topic. What about in recognition? We all know that recognition of some form is helpful when it comes to motivation. Let's take a look at a positive-oriented conversation between the same two fictional employees. Note the same format as the conversation related to a negative action. This type of positive feedback and recognition can go a long way for improving relationships, both personally and professionally. As you're going through these examples, we wouldn't be surprised to learn that you've identified people, though hopefully not many, that fall into the power category. Perhaps you're wishing that a specific coworker or relative was present to hear this talk in hopes that it would make them realize that power is their leadership method. It's easy to think of other people in our lives that fit into this category, but perhaps you should take some time to reflect on yourself as well. Do you recognize power-oriented actions as things that you've done in your daily life, at home, work, or in the community? It's never too late to change if you're ready. It can take some effort and may be taxing at times to change your initial reactions to situations and stresses, but the end result will be a much improved relationship and a less stressful life. So how do you get started? The book QBQ, The Question Behind the Question, can be referred to in making changes. How do you become a positive influence in situations or a leader that people want to follow? First off, try to avoid the blame game, looking at a situation that went awry and immediately coming to a conclusion that it was someone else's fault may not be the most productive method of ensuring the situation does not repeat in the future. Try to focus on the what or how in the situation. What happened and how did that situation come to play can be a better investigative sentiment than who did the action and why did they do it. When developing a subsequent course of action for future developments, think about what you can do to make a difference. How can I ensure that the situation doesn't occur on my shift? What can I do to improve the work environment here? These questions add in personal accountability and make you focus on the action rather than the cause. Through examples and suggestions, we've tried to begin to explain what it means to be an authoritative leader. Let's discuss this further with more specific definitions and explanations. It may appear to you that the authoritative leader is not forceful by nature, but don't be mistaken. Authoritative leaders do not step in and complete someone's task when they are not doing their job. Imagine if you repeatedly tasked your child with taking out the garbage, but then you consistently took it out because they were ignoring your request. That's not authoritative leadership. In reality, the child would more or less have the leadership role, and chances are it's a power-oriented one. Courageous communication, as we've discussed, allows the authoritative leader to enhance their followers' motivation. When following an authoritative leader, you may find that you want to do the best job possible. You hold yourself personally accountable for the success of the request, and you do it because you want to, not because it's demanded of you. This all goes along with an authoritative leader. They have a special knack for acknowledging their own responsibility and tasks and instilling a high work ethic for those following them. Are authoritative leaders always right? No, of course not. No one is right all the time. When situations arise when something simply will not work as planned or needs to be stopped altogether, the authoritative leader is okay with that. Compromise, change, and rejection all come with the ground of being a leader. However, if you talk with an authoritative leader and a power leader who have both seen the same rejection, you will notice a key difference. The authoritative leader has a tendency to take responsibility for everything that went wrong. I did not think that plan through. Whereas the power leader may have a response of, my employees failed. Note the return again of the blame game as we discussed earlier. Conversely, when something goes right, even when directly at the hands of an authoritative leader, they will first recognize their employees and label it a group effort, but the power leader tends to take full credit. So take some time after the presentation and think to yourself, what can I do to build authority in my life? How can I make these changes?